That's better. I'm already too far away from the microphone usually. Distinguished guests, and there are so many distinguished guests here this morning from the private sector, government, or international organizations and government. Thank you, of course, Ajahn Kasai for this introduction. Fellow ambassadors, notably especially Ambassador Prugel of Germany, who with Canada is supporting this. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Sawadee Ka, bonjour, good morning. I'm very honored to be here today for this event and to be present at, I think, what is an important initial discussion. This brings together for us two very important priorities for Canada, and we've been very honored to support this initiative. The two priorities for us that are linked are, of course, our engagement in Southeast Asia, which is a policy priority for Canada, and disaster risk management, and support of small and medium-sized enterprises. We have, I'd also like to congratulate, to start off, the organizers for this excellent forum, the people who've brought all the participants together. I'm very happy to see this happening. Bringing together the private sector brings a much-needed focus and much-needed collaboration between the private sector and the various players on disaster resilience. We're aware that, we're all aware in this room, that nearly half of the world's natural disasters occur in the Asia-Pacific region. So every year, the lives and livelihoods of hundreds and thousands of people are affected. We're also aware that there is an alarming increase in the frequency of extreme weather events and other disasters. Continued development, of course, in floodplains, earthquake zones, and other high-risk areas is putting more people in harm's way, turning routine natural hazards into potential catastrophes. When these catastrophes happen, when the floods or earthquakes happen, the international community continues to work to respond to these disasters. Canada has consistently been part of this, playing a role in responding to disasters in the region, providing timely, effective, and needs-based support from the earthquakes in Nepal, Japan, flooding in other parts of the world, Typhoon Haiyan, the most recent earthquakes both in Japan and, of course, further afield in Ecuador. But we know that simply responding after the fact to such events is not enough. All nations need to put far more emphasis on effective disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation if we are to minimize the costs and economic impact, both in human terms and in economic terms, of these disasters. So Canada takes a comprehensive approach to disaster risk management and resilience building. We recognize that mitigating risks and reducing vulnerabilities is far more effective than simply responding after the fact. We have to move in advance of these disasters and be ready to ensure that communities and organizations and governments are ready to respond to them. In line with our commitments under the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, Canada is investing in global and regional efforts to strengthen resilience to disasters, working with such partners as the United Nations, the International Red Cross and Red Crescent, and the Global Environment Facility. Recently, we have stepped up our commitment in this area through ambitious action on climate change announced by our Prime Minister in November. Our Prime Minister has pledged $2.65 billion over 5 years to help developing countries tackle climate change. And the focus of this investment is on increasing economic resilience and opportunity. We have also announced $50 million to the G7 initiative on climate risk insurance, which aims to build on previous successes in using disaster risk financing tools. We also, as a government, recognize the expertise and leadership on disaster management that resides in this part of the world. This is why we've strongly engaged on this issue in APEC and have made disaster risk reduction a key focus for Canada's regional development programming with ASEAN. In 2013, we launched the Integrated Disaster Risk Management Fund, which is managed by the Asian Development Bank, and which supports innovative regional solutions for disaster risk management in Southeast Asia. The fund highlights Canada's stronger call for effective multi-stakeholder engagement in reducing the disaster risks, with an emphasis on private sector partnership. So this forum today reflects this priority and focus that we put on disaster risk management in the region. Resilient businesses represent a crucial part of efforts to build safer communities and more secure societies. And this is especially true of the small and medium-sized enterprises, which are key drivers for growth and job creation both in Asia and in Canada. Their ability to manage in the wake of disasters is a key determinant of the overall economic disruption that will take place, the disruption to production, the disruption to value chains, and this all the disruption that takes place as a result of natural disasters can be mitigated and can be addressed by increasing resilience in the part of the private sector, and also by increasing private sector, public sector collaboration to build a more effective cooperative resilience in any country. SMEs, of course, remain especially vulnerable to these external shocks due to a number of factors, including their limited resources and the limited options for risk management and risk transfer because of their size. But on the other hand, these are also often very nimble organizations because of their size. So given the right information and skills, given the right preparedness, they can adapt to such shocks, and they can start including more effectively risk management in their business plans and practices, responding in particular to disaster risk management. In recognition of this potential, we are very pleased as Canada to support the Asian Disaster Preparedness Centre's work on strengthening disaster resilience of small and medium-sized enterprises in Asia. By drawing on the experiences and collective views of government officials, private sector actors, and other relevant stakeholders from across the region, we are confident that we can help improve SME resilience and safeguard lives in times of crisis. These efforts dovetail as well with Canada's commitment to leadership on sustainable and climate-resilient economies, as well as our expanded engagement with ASEAN on sustainable economic growth, including our support to the ASEAN Strategic Strategic Action Plan for SMEs. I'd also at this point like to thank the German government for its partnership in this initiative, and commend Germany for its constructive global engagement and strong partnership in support of inclusive growth through sustainable and resilient businesses and economies. Thanks also to the supporting partners of this session and to the 2016 Asian Business Forum on Risk Reduction and Resilience Building. I believe this is an extremely important start to a dialogue that needs to happen in this region. I hope that there will be some very productive discussions over the next couple of days. I wish you all a productive engagement and discussions today and tomorrow in advancing this initiative. And I hope we all can find ways to improve resilience of SMEs, to strengthen our partnerships between the private sector and public sector and international organizations, as we all commit to not only supporting sustainable economic growth in ASEAN, but to addressing the real pressing needs of disaster risk management. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you all a very productive session. Top Kun Kap.